And now, Move the Sticks with Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks.
What's up, everybody? DJ Bucky here, Move the Sticks. And, Buck, we're about a little over a month away from the NFL Draft. And on today's episode, man, we've got some interesting topics. Should we lay it out for the folks at home?
Yeah, we should lay it out. We have a couple nice things. We're going to talk about Alfred Morris going to the Dallas Cowboys. That is a big domino to fall. Certainly will affect how some of the draft things take place now that we've seen them get their running back. We talk about perfect pairs. We both have been in draft rooms where we talk about if we could have the perfect haul at the end of day one or day two of draft day, what would that consist of? So we go through some scenarios. We'll talk about the Move the Sticks bracket. We got
a Final Four now.
Yeah, we got a Final Four. And then we may get into this Indiana-Carolina matchup that I know that
now
you're
we're talking.
So excited.
I can't wait,
that
man.
Your squad is going to try and knock off my squad.
And by the way, we're going to zero in on our perfect pairings. We're going to try and do a couple divisions at a time here. We're going to do NFC and AFC North today. So if you're a fan of those teams, you definitely want to stick around for this one. And then our Red Star. We'll keep the Red Star thing going. I think we're talking pass catchers today, wide receivers.
You gotta like that. Gotta like seeing guys that can put the ball in the paint. One of my faves.
All right, before we get to Indiana beating Carolina, let's jump in right now to Alfred Morris signing with the Dallas Cowboys here. Buck, what's your initial reaction to that move?
My initial reaction is I'm a little bummed because I thought Ezekiel Elliott going to Dallas would be a great matchup. Ezekiel Elliott playing behind that big offensive line. Dallas getting back to committing to running the football. I think he would be a dynamic. With Alfred Morris, you get a productive player, a guy who has been one of the top rushers during his time, a guy who has kind of fallen off a little bit, maybe because he didn't get the opportunities, but maybe behind this
a scheme change there too.
Yeah, maybe behind this big offensive line, he can kind of get back on track. It's a solid move, but it's not one that necessarily blows me away.
No frills runner, very decisive. Those are things that I like about Alfred Morris. Not going to wow you with breakaway speed. He's not the biggest guy going to break a million tackles. What he is, he's going to get every yard that you give me. He's not going to waste anything. He's not going to run in the back of his offensive line. He's got good vision, and I think with the push they can get up front, his vision I think will play well there in Dallas. I'm not saying he's going to have a humongous year, but I think you'll see a little bit more of that earlier Alfred Morris than what we saw the last game.
Well, he can be solid. If Darren McFadden can get over 1,000 yards in this offense, you know that he can be a guy that can get 12 to 1,300 yards. The big thing for him with the Washington Redskins, the scheme change and then the opportunities kind of shrank for him. If he gets 20, 25 carries, he's proven that he can be a guy that can get over 100 yards a game. In Dallas, they need to get back to that formula because that is what allowed them to be successful in 2014. Run the football, try and get over that magic number of 35 times a game. If they do that, they have a lot of success.
All right, real quick, before we move on to perfect pairs here, better combination. We talk about putting combinations together. That's what we're going to do here with this perfect pairs. But in this scenario, Dallas Cowboys, you're in that personnel office, and you look at it and say, okay, this is our choice here. We go get Alfred Morris, which frees us up now at 4. Maybe we can go Joey Bosa. So you have a combination of Alfred Morris, Joey Bosa, or you say, okay, we're going to sit at 4. We're going to take Ezekiel Elliott, who you mentioned. But we're going to have to pair him up. Probably going to have to bring Greg Hardy back and all the baggage he carries with him. But that's the best available pass rusher that's out there. So Morris and Bosa or Elliott and Hardy, what would you rather have?
I would actually rather have Elliott and Hardy. And Elliott, I get the best running back in the draft. I get a guy that is dynamic, he's electric in terms of being a 3-down runner, can do it inside and outside, can make plays in the passing game, and is also solid in pass protection. And also, I know Greg Hardy brings a lot of baggage, but I also know he's a proven pass rusher, and his presence on that right defensive inside allowed DeMarcus Lawrence and some of those other guys to hunt. I don't know if you get the same effect with Joey Bosa coming in. Is he going to be a guy that immediately draws that kind of attention and gives you the sack production that you would like?
One thing I can't get out of my head about Greg Hardy is Carolina. It was really addition by subtraction. This team, I mean, look, you can't just directly tie it to Greg Hardy, but they decided with all his talent and all of his ability, we're going to move on without him, and they were a better football team.
I don't know if they were a better team.
They lost one game.
They lost one game, but I said if you look at the production and the defense, like they're a team that really struggled getting to the passer. They were good up front.
I'm not talking, though, like stats and production. I'm talking about what you just look at it. There's sometimes your win has a little bit more to do with what's going on in your locker room and all that stuff. That factors in.
You and I both sat with amazement at how the Carolina Panthers were able to have the record that they have.
I know. I'm just saying it is.
Based on the rock. So maybe, yes, chemistry in the locker room and those things. I don't know if they got better from a personnel standpoint by letting go of a guy that was
I agree with that. It's an interesting fact.
They
were
did
better.
get to the Super Bowl without him.
All right, let's go on perfect pairs here. Let's start NFC North here, Buck. The Chicago Bears, we're going to kind of start with the bottom of the division and work our way up to the top in terms of how they finished. The Bears hold pick number 11 and pick number 41. I'm going to give you the floor. Give me the 2 players that they would love to have in those 2 spots.
John Fox wants to make sure that they build a bully on defense, that they get back to playing the kind of football that the Chicago Bears fans are used to seeing in Soldier Field. So I'm going to say that they need to cover a pass rusher and they need to find a cover corner. The pass rusher that I think would be ideal for them is Shaq Lawson at number 11. You get Shaq Lawson coming off the edge, being able to get to the quarterback, and then having a cover corner in Mackenzie Alexander that can play in the back end. These 2 guys should help fortify your defense on both levels. At the foundation, where Shaq Lawson's able to stop the run, also give you something against the pass. And then Mackenzie Alexander being able to lock up and pair him with Kyle Fuller. You should have 2 young quarters that can grow. I know you have Tracy Porter still there as your nickel, but to me, you have this young core of guys that can grow together in Vic Fangio's defense. I believe this would give them an opportunity to kind of close the ground on that NFC North. Right.
Yeah, look, one-stop shopping. You go to Clemson, you get both guys, Shaq Lawson, Mackenzie Alexander. Go defense 11 and 41. I like what you're thinking there, Buck. You know, obviously we've talked a lot of, we've talked ad nauseum about the no interceptions there from Mackenzie Alexander.
I mean, it's a problem. We just saw the drop right there. That should have been.
Doesn't have great hands, but look, the guy's tough. The guy's got good feet, and he proved at his pro day he's got a little more juice than maybe we thought he did. So I like that pairing, Shaq Lawson, Mackenzie Alexander. I'll go up next here, and I'm going to take over the Detroit Lions, picks number 16 and 46. And first off at 16, we're going to go D-line. We're going to go Sheldon Rankins there at 16. Sheldon Rankins is not the biggest defensive lineman in this draft class, Bucky, but he does have some wiggle inside. He does have some upside as a pass rusher, and we saw that at the Senior Bowl, what he was able to get accomplished there. So they go defensive tackle there at 16. Then they come back at 46, and they go offensive line, and they get Jermaine Ifedi there from Texas A&M, who can play tackle, can kick inside, and play guard. But it's a trenches draft here for the Lions. You look right now, you see Sheldon Rankins kind of doing his thing against Kentucky, and man, that's a bad uniform combo there for the Wildcats. But somebody that's disruptive can get in the backfield, going to pair him up with Haloti Ngata. I like that. And then with Ifedi, he's a guy that I've kind of liked throughout this whole process. I think he'd be a good value pick for him at 46. If he gets there, I'm not so sure that he will.
Well, no, I mean, I think this is really a meat and potatoes draft for the Detroit Lions that you're projecting. They need to find someone at the defensive tackle spot that can do it. You lose Sue, you lose Fairley. They needed someone to come in. I know you have Haloti Ngata, but look, he's at the end of the line when it comes to his career. Find someone who is dynamic on the inside that can play on the other side of the line of scrimmage. I think that would be the best opportunity for them to get back to being a dominant defense.
All right, let's move on now. Minnesota. No, we got the Packers here. I forgot.
That's right. I get
Packers
to go back.
up next.
Go Pack, go. When I look at the Green Bay Packers and knowing Ted Thompson very, very well, look, they elevated.
Elliott Wolf got a little bump.
Got a little bump. Brian Gutekunst gets a bump. They just keep moving up the ladder. But when I look at the Packers, they want to make sure that they address the defense. You lose B.J. Raji to a hiatus. Mm-hmm. We're thinking it's a long-term retirement, but he's going to say it's a hiatus. So I want to make sure they get a nose tackle. And Clay Matthews, I think, is better served to go back to outside linebacker. So let's go nose tackle, inside linebacker. I have Andrew Billings coming off the board at 27 and Kentrell Brothers from Missouri going at 57. And with Billings, you're talking about a big, strong, athletic guy, a guy that can push the pocket, a guy that is devastating against the run, destroys things, can run and chase.
He was a little more athletic at the combine than I thought he was.
And I think what gets lost is because Baylor plays a high-tempo offense, they have to play so many snaps on defense, he's not able to have that impact. In the league, I think he would have even a bigger impact, being able to be an inside destroyer, a guy that can destroy the run game, but also get into the way of the quarterback.
Remind me a little bit of Sed Ellis coming out of USC.
You know, Sed Ellis was nice. Didn't have a long career with New Orleans Saints, but was a really good player. Went 7th overall, I want to say, to the Saints. This guy right here, Kentrell Brothers, is a tackling machine. Very instinctive, aware, is active. I think he gives them a little more what they need on the interior than what Clay Matthews did. Even though Clay Matthews has made a ton of plays, I just believe Brothers could sit inside, make some plays, and allow Matthews to pair up with Julius Peppers and get back to making that pass rush what it was at one time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to digging in. I have not done Brothers, haven't finished him yet on tape. Look forward to get that done. But all right, I'm going to move on now. Minnesota Vikings picks 23 and 54. We're going to go offensive heavy here, and we're going to go get somebody that can pair up at wide receiver with our first pick. Going to go Corey Coleman at pick number 23, speedy wide receiver out at Baylor, and we're going to pair him up with Stephon Diggs, and we're going to be able to stretch the field. Playing indoors now, right, in Minnesota?
Yeah. Inside.
So Teddy's going to cut it.
Teddy too close. He can cut it loose.
Cut it loose, baby. We're going to go down the field with Corey Coleman. We say it each and every time Corey Coleman's name comes up. How many routes, Buck?
He only runs 4.
4? Hitch, slant, post, go. Boom.
That's it. Easy.
But he does all of his damage.
For it.
He does his damage, and we're both big Corey Coleman fans. I feel he's the best wide receiver in this draft class and be a nice pick for him there at 23. Then they come back at 54, stay on the offensive side of the ball. Let's continue to help Teddy Bridgewater. Let's go Christian Westerman, the guard from Arizona State.
Physical up front.
Big physical guy, can create some movement at the point of attack, and can kind of help get that running game, continue that to be at a high level there with Adrian Peterson and company. I think this way they go offense. That defense has got so many young studs. Let's add some more pieces to build around our quarterback, and we do that with Corey Coleman at 23 and Christian Westerman at 54.
And then speaking of the quarterback, this is the year where he should kind of take that next step. Year 3, he's kind of played the role of the game manager those first 2 years with Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson just had a birthday. He turns 31. I think at some point, if you're the Vikings, you're looking to kind of change your offensive philosophy, make it a little more quarterback-centric. Moving inside should help Teddy Bridgewater push the ball down the field. I know Mike Wallace complained about the quarterback play there, but I think he'll be fine. I didn't think the deep ball was an issue when we watched him at Louisville.
Yeah.
I think now you put him inside the cozy confines of a dome, he should get back to being Teddy.
Man, those games outdoors in Minnesota just look frigid.
It's frigid, but you know the beauty of what it did, it helped Minnesota build a team that I think is a team that's equipped to play in the postseason because they have a strong defense, they have a running game, they have a very effective quarterback. Now you move them inside, they have the ability to be a little more maybe offensive-centric when it comes to pushing the ball down the field. I think it helps them. I think they are well-positioned to be a team that's going to contend for the next few years.
All right, let's flip it over here. We did the NFC North. Let's go AFC North, and holding the number 2 pick is the Cleveland Browns. Go ahead, Sashi. What you got?
Sashi, I'm going to do a little Moneyball action, and I'm going to play all the numbers and the figures. I'm going to go by the physical characteristics, and I'm going to say Carson Wentz and Will Fuller.
Okay.
2 things that we need. We need a quarterback, and we need a home run receiver, a guy that can make plays. I know that we can't count on Josh Gordon coming back, but I'm going to say that he's going to be my wide receiver 1, which is why I went with Fuller in the second round. But in this guy, Carson Wentz, big physical playmaker, guy that has A-plus arm talent. He can do it in a traditional fashion, but also is very comfortable running. I think Hugh Jackson, Pep Hamilton find a way to kind of craft that offense around his unique skill set. He should be a terrific pro in time. Guy won a lot of games at North Dakota State. I'm really good on him. And in Will Fuller, you have a guy that in the last 2 years scored 29 touchdowns, home run hitter. We saw the speed at the combine. We saw improved pass catching ability. If he can become a consistent pass catcher, there's no doubt that he's going to make plenty of big plays. If they're able to somehow get Josh Gordon back on track, I think this is a nice complement to what Josh Gordon is on the other side.
I like it. I like those picks a lot, Buck. I'm not even going to add on to that because I love everything you said. I'm just going to move right on to the Baltimore Ravens, former team I work with. They're holding picks 6 and 36. And, again, I'm going to stick with a theme. We're going to go on the defensive side of the ball. Let's get that Ravens defense back to what it was. Up front, 6th overall pick, Joey Bosa from Ohio State. Give him a nice rusher. We talk about how he can beat you off the edge, but you can also kick inside and he can do some damage. He can really get skinny when he goes down there in that 3 technique, and reminds me of what he does in there. Reminds me a little bit of Trevor Price, who we had in Baltimore for a period of time, who can do some of those things. But Joey Bosa, team up. They've got some good young pieces interior. They need one to kind of pair up there on the edge. And then we're going to come back at 36 and go with one of my favorite players in the draft. And I'm telling you, Buck, beginning of the process, you didn't hear much about him. It's just going to continue to build. William Jackson III from Houston. To the point where at 36 might be wishful thinking. I don't know that he's going to get there. He is big, he is fast, he can play the ball, and he's tough. He's got a lot working for him.
You know, it's funny. I always want to ask you, what is a Raven? Like when they say I want guys that
we always say play like a Raven.
Yeah, play like a Raven. Like, what does that mean? When you're scouting and you're tasked with the responsibility of going on the road, find guys that fit us. Like, what does that mean when you speak specifically to Baltimore?
We talk about guys that are all ball. They absolutely love football, and they're passionate about it, and they have a toughness to them. Talking about toughness in that they're going to play hurt. They're going to play injured. Going to battle through it. They're going to always be around the facility because they can't get enough of football. And when the big moments are there, these are the guys you count on. And in every game, you know, you get those crucial moments. There's guys that rise up and there's players that shrink. And we always talked about guys that play like Ravens. They embrace that.
Man, that's fascinating. It's funny because I've always heard it from the outside. I've always been curious about what it was on the inside. In Carolina, John Fox had a thing. We wanted fast, tough, and physical. We wanted guys that were fast. We wanted guys that were tough guys, tough-minded, loved to play football. And in physical, it was all about knocking people out, trying to create that mentality. So it's interesting to hear you talk about the Ravens.
We used to always say this, though, Buck, before we move on to the Steelers, and that's where you're up. We used to always say, okay, we put, like you're talking about corners, and we'd say, okay, we talk about their ability, this, that, and the other. But then every now and then we'd say, hey, what if we put these 4 corners in a room and lock the door? Who's coming out? And it was like, okay, that's kind of the guy that comes out is kind of our type of a guy.
It's funny because when and sitting with Ike Taylor, our colleague here on NFL Now, and some of the other stuff that we do, NFL Media, Ike talks about the Steelers. He talks about our kind of guys. And so I kind of get the sense that if we're looking at guys, I think the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers kind of draw and drink from the same. They drink from the same spigot.
There's an obsession with both teams with each other.
Yeah, I think they drink from the same spigot, and I think you have to have a level of toughness. So, in speaking to the toughness, the guys that I took for them at 25 and 58 both have those virtues, Eli Apple and Devontae Booker. In Eli Apple, you have the long, rangy prototype at corner that typically has played there since Mel Blount used to do it back in the day in the 70s. A guy that can get up and walk up in your face, play nose-to-nose, play press coverage, but also has the versatility to play off. And even though they're transitioning in the back end to more of a zone-based defense, doing some of the Tampa 2, being able to look and include a quarterback, I think Eli Apple is a nice fit there. And in Devontae Booker, I believe at some point you have to address Le'Veon Bell's injury situation because he's been banged up a little bit. I want to make sure that if Lev Bell has to miss any time, that I have a guy in place that can do some of those things. This guy, Devontae Booker, to me, can do all of those things. He can run it inside and outside. He can catch the ball out the backfield. Look, the measurements are not necessarily going to blow you away when it comes to him running the 40, but in terms of playing football, you talked about the term all ball. This is a ball player. Whenever I turned on Pac-12 games and Utah was on, he stood out. He jumped on the tape. He's a guy to me that I think is a perfect still at this situation.
Somebody had him as their Red Star running back, Buck. I'm trying to think of who that was.
Yeah,
that's me.
I'm a big
Devontae Booker guy.
I wonder who that is. I like him. I mean, there's not a lot to not like about him. He does everything. He put that offense on his back, and he brings a lot to the table. Big, fast, and physical. I think in the second round, I'm good with him.
All right, now let's move on. You went defense, offense. I'm going to go to the Bengals, and I'm going to flip it around here, and I'm going to go offense, defense. Holding picks 24 and 55. We start out offense at 24, Josh Doctson, and from TCU, wide receiver. This is somebody that I think throughout the process, I don't know if anybody's helped themselves more in the postseason than he has. When you look at what he ended up running at the combine, kind of addressed the speed. I could watch this catch a million times.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Addressed the speed issue. That was something that I had a little bit of concern about, but he erased that. He ran a 4.5 flat. But going up and playing the ball high in the air, especially when you get down here in the red zone, he is such a weapon. And with the Bengals, having some departures there, Mohamed Sanu's gone, Marvin Jones is gone. They need to replenish that with some size. I like Josh Doctson at 24. Then we come back at 55. Let's get some athleticism at linebacker. We know Burfict's going to be suspended for a few games, but even with him coming back, I'd like to see a guy like Deion Jones from LSU, somebody that's a little bit undersized, but man, you want to play teams, you need to line him up with a tight end. You got a back you got to deal with like Le'Veon Bell twice a year out of the backfield. You've got somebody with strong safety type cover skills playing at linebacker, especially when you get in sub in your nickel situations. This guy can be a weapon.
I like this guy. Yeah, I really like Deion Jones, and I think the league is trending to we're seeing these kind of linebackers and hybrid safeties play a lot. The Deron Lees, the Deion Jones, guys that can stay on the field in every situation. They're fast enough to basically cover like safeties, but they're physical enough to be factors in the run game. Deion Jones is a good pick. But Josh Doctson, the thought of having to defend A.J. Green on one side, Josh Doctson on the
Two
other
ballerinas.
side. Two ballerinas, two guys that can go get it in the red zone. And Josh Doctson, to me, where I became a big fan, I loved how he was courageous going inside the numbers. Slants, the digs, being able to catch the ball and take hits. That is a huge telltale sign for me. 29 touchdowns in his career at TCU. He's a big-time player. You put him with A.J. Green. I love that.
Yeah, no, that's a good combination there, Bucky. All right, that's going to do it for the AFC and NFC North. Next week on the show, we're going to dig into the NFC and AFC East. So be sure to check back in for those. All right, Bucky, let's move on. Our Red Stars of the week. And it's a beautiful flow right here. The way we've got this organized.
It just so happens that the guy that I just raved and waxed poetic about, Josh Doctson, happens to be My Red Star guy.
Yeah, it's your Red
Now,
Star. Wide receivers.
Let's explain what Red Star means. So
Yeah, go
a
for it.
Red Star guy is the guy that I'm willing to stand on the table, stand on the proverbial table in the draft room and say that this is my guy. This guy is going to make it regardless of the physical attributes and any of the other stuff. You put him wherever, he's going to find a way to have success. It means we're guaranteeing that these guys are going to find a way to be successful pros.
Yeah, they're basically putting our stamp on the guy. I want this guy on my football team.
Absolutely.
You go back and look at your notes on Josh Doxson. What are some of the things that stand out when you look at your notes here, Buck?
You know, when I look at it and looking at this, route running ability, I felt like he was so smooth and fluid getting in and out of his breaks. Watching him not only on tape but at the combine, I thought he stood out in terms of his route running ability, his ability to separate from coverage. I think he's going to be outstanding and working free from defenders. Sticky hands. He's a natural pass catcher. He has big mitts anyway, so you always see him catch the ball extended away from his body. But then his ability to just go and get the ball at the highest point kind of plays into the next thing. The jump ball specialist, big playability down in the red zone, finds a way to make it happen. And the last thing is, I believe he's a guy that can do a couple of different things for you. I know he's going to be a red zone weapon, but on third down, when we have to move the chains,
Come on, Buck. Don't do it.
Come on, man. Move the sticks.
There you go.
This is what I have.
Come on now.
He's a chain mover. He's a guy that can continue to churn out those first downs. He's a guy that you can go to in critical situations. So in certain instances where you need him to be a number one receiver, or if he's a complimentary receiver on the backside, I think he can get it done. And that is why I liken him to DeAndre Hopkins from the Houston Texans.
Yeah. For your comp. We always try and find comparisons for these guys, and you're going with the big one there in Hopkins.
Yeah, I'm going with Hopkins. And the reason I'm going with Hopkins is because I can see him transitioning much like DeAndre Hopkins did. DeAndre Hopkins played the number 2 role opposite Andre Johnson for a couple of years, and then he showed people that he could be the number 1 receiver. When you look at Hopkins and the success that he's had the last 2 years with the cast of characters that have played quarterback for the Houston Texans, says a lot about his ability. I believe Josh Doxson is going to be able to do similar things for whatever team he goes to.
I love that one, Buck. I love DeAndre Hopkins as a comparison, and I'm falling more and more in love with Josh Doxson as we go through the process. I'm going to give you mine, though, and sometimes we say this could be a middle-round guy, it could be a lower-round guy, and this happens to just be my favorite receiver in the draft class, is also my red star, and that's Corey Coleman from Baylor. Somebody that when I got a chance to watch him, man, he was fun. He's put your feet up on the desk type of a player when you're studying him. You see my notes here. Ultra explosive. I love the way he attacks the ball at the highest point. He plays bigger than his size. You talk about big playability, man. This guy will eat up your cushion in a hurry. And then after the catch, he can make you miss, he can run away from you, and he's even got the toughness to be able to break a tackle. So he's got a lot of tools, a lot of ability, and I love that sticker that I have there down in the bottom. At the dentist office. It's fantastic. No, look, this is a player I know you like a lot as well, Bucky. We joke around and say the 4 routes he runs, slant, hitch, post, go. But you see right here, he can get off press coverage, which is not something easy to do when guys are making that transition to the next level. I think that'll be easier for him. I don't know, you're going to ask him to run a bunch of comebacks and complicated routes early on, but he can do his damage on just a few routes.
You know, this is someone, like I've known Corey since he was in high school. As a senior, I had him play on one of my 7-on-7 events at Nike and watch him grow during his time at Baylor. I'm really impressed with his ability to go and get the football. I never envisioned him being a guy that would emerge and kind of develop as quickly as he has, but when you watch him, he attacks the football. He makes it happen. When he has open space, he's going to take it and put it into paint. And the fact that he has been able to do it in a spectacular fashion, I absolutely believe he can be a dominant player for a long
Look,
time.
I know the offense is what it is, and it's kind of popcorn numbers in fantasy land, but 20 touchdowns is 20 touchdowns.
20 touchdowns, like you can't deny.
Good
Like
night.
that's the one thing that kind of translates to the next level. Guys who have a penchant for putting the ball in the paint find a way to do it as pros. 20 touchdowns. His final season at Baylor is unbelievable. I think he's going to be able to be a big play specialist at the next level.
Yeah, before we move on, don't want to forget my comparison here for him. Steve Smith, I know it's one that we've both used. You've been around Steve Smith a lot there in Carolina.
I mean, very similar.
Similar size, and I think it's even just that aggressiveness in attacking a way that they play the game that's similar.
You know, they play the game basically like running backs. Like, they're physical. They go and get the ball. They're not afraid. They're undaunted by maybe their lack of size or the inferior size on the outside. They just have a way of playing above the rim. Steve Smith has done it for a long time. He's a guy that I saw grow from being a punt returner to being one of the best wide receivers in the game and maybe a likely Hall of Famer. Corey Coleman is in rare company when you make that comparison, but I do believe it's a very, very valid comparison.
All right, let's talk some tournament here. We're not We're not talking NCAA tournament, though, Buck. We're
Not
talking
yet.
about
Not yet.
Not yet. We will at the end. We're going to get into that. We are going to talk, though, about our Move the Sticks bracket, which is our who will have the best NFL career prospect bracket. And we are now through. We started with 8. We are down to 4 teams now. When you take a look at the original bracket here, we'll show you the 8 players we had up and show you the results from your voting. This is all left up to you guys here. You see there, Tunsil and Buckner, Bosa, Goff, and then Jack Vernon Hargraves, and keep an eye down there, bottom right corner, Jalen Ramsey and Ezekiel Elliott. Let's look at who emerged as the winner of these. There it is. How about that? We got to look. Top seed.
It was all chalk.
Top seed.
Yeah.
Top seed, and then not so much top seed down there, bottom right.
Yeah, that's so unbelievable. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott and Jalen Ramsey. Ezekiel Elliott pulling off the big upset. Maybe it's the skill guy thing. Maybe it's because we've seen Ezekiel Elliott put the ball in the paint and carry Ohio State to a title. But I am very surprised because we talk about all ball, the guy being all in, being able to do different things. That's what Jalen Ramsey is. My number 1 defensive player in the draft. In fact, my number 1 player on the board. Ezekiel Elliott knocks him off. The number 1 seed goes home.
That's Ohio State fans, man. They come strong in these deals here. All right, let's preview real quick a couple of these matchups we got left here. Final 4. Tunsil versus Bosa, and this is a decision that you'd say, okay, this is obviously a discussion that's taking place there in Tennessee. I have Tunsil as my top overall player in the draft class, Bucky, so I would lean with him in this matchup with Joey Bosa. And a lot of times when you're in the draft room, if you're ranking players, a lot of times you'll say, okay, he's a tackle, he's a defensive end, can he block him? And I would look at Tunsil and say, yeah, if I had to go in that matchup, I'll take Tunsil.
Absolutely. I would go that route, too. I believe Laramie Tunsil. I have him as my second best player on the board. I just believe it's hard to find a dancing bear with natural feet, a guy who has the technical skills that he has. Only gave up 2 sacks in 28 career games, a guy that I believe is ready to play and start from day one. It's hard to find those rare specimens at left tackle, but I believe he is one. I would go with him over Joey Bosa. I think Joey Bosa is a good player, but I believe this guy has a chance to be a great player.
Yeah, the difference is Joey Bosa maybe kicks in and rushes against your crappy guard.
Yep.
And ends up beating him up a little bit. So I think there will be a lot of support here for Joey Bosa from the fans. They've seen him for a long time, played a high level there at Ohio State. I think both these guys end up going pretty high. Obviously, Tunsil's got a good shot at being the number 1 pick. I don't see Joey Bosa getting by the Baltimore Ravens picking there at 6. You see him right here. Man, he's got great hands. That's the one thing he can really, really do.
Some of the best hands I've seen in terms of being able to work and sequence his moves, to work the edges, to be able to use the long arm, to be able to push and pull. All the things that he brings to the table from a technical standpoint, he's advanced beyond his years, should have success immediately as a pro.
All right, we had Bosa the Buckeye going up against Tunsil from Ole Miss. We got another Buckeye here in the other bracket to try and get to the final game here, and that's Miles Jack, the linebacker from UCLA, going up against Ezekiel Elliott, the running back there from Ohio State. Man, is Ezekiel Elliott going to pull off another upset here, Buck? What you got?
He very well may pull off another upset. When you look at Ezekiel Elliott, you're talking about a guy that is a downhill runner, a guy that has the quickness, the vision, the pitter-pat to make things happen in tight quarters, but also has the speed to get on the perimeter. And then when you factor in his receiving skills and his ability to protect and pass protection, there's a lot to like about him. And so it's going to be tough for Miles Jack to knock him off, because I think many can envision this guy being a star at the next level from day one in a system where you really depend on the running back to be critically involved in the passing game. I think he can shine. A situation like Philadelphia where Doug Peterson's coming in, the things they did with Jamal Charles, he gets a guy like Ezekiel Elliott, could be dangerous.
Look at him run routes, by the way, at that pro day. He looked like a wide receiver, the way he was stemming and getting out of his break.
Caught the ball very easy. The route
very natural.
Was nice. Advanced.
But he's got a tough matchup here. Miles Jack, if healthy, maybe the fans would be a little bit more buzzing about Miles Jack. We saw him at his pro day the other day. I thought he moved around pretty good, Buck. Still a little bit of a pause when he's changing direction. You can see he doesn't fully trust that knee just yet. You see some images here of his pro day. Man, the guy's in great shape. I know they said he jumped 40 inches, which some scouting buddies told me that was definitely called into question, but it was still mid-30s. Pretty darn impressive coming off that knee. But somebody, when you watch him on tape, Bucky can do everything. You want somebody to play downhill that has the range to play laterally. You can line him up all over the field, and if you want, you can put him on the other side of the ball and pitch it to him.
You know, the thing is, just looking at him go through the bag drills, how easily he goes through it, how naturally he makes his movements. Look, this is coming on post-op surgery, not fully back to health. I'm believing in this guy. I believe he's a terrific player, a guy that has an opportunity to be, we talk about red star players. if I had to hang a star, I'll put a star on this guy because he is going to be terrific in the right defense. As a will linebacker, being able to run and chase and sniff it from the second level, he should make a ton of plays.
All right, we got Miles Jack here. The 3 seed, can he knock off Ezekiel Elliott? And as I said at the top, this is all up to you. This is not me and Bucky deciding who moves forward here. These rankings, these seedings were kind of taken from a compilation of our 2 lists. And they kind of formed this together and created this bracket. But you can vote. All you got to do is go. You can vote on Twitter, or you can go to NFL.com/MTS bracket. You can find it there and see the real-time updates of who's winning these matchups. But it is up to you. And before we get out of here, though, Bucky.
I know you talked about my guy.
So I did some scouting.
Overrated.
I did some scouting. Look. I'm a lifelong Indiana fan. You went to North Carolina.
I'm a lifelong Tar Heel
forever, right?
Lifelong Tar Heel.
So since we were little, these are our squads.
Yeah.
Now, we're a 4 seed, man. We're the underdog. I get it. We're beat up. We got some injuries.
We've
got some injuries.
I don't believe in underdogs, but I'm fine
we're
with
coming off a big win over Kentucky.
Very big win.
And
very big
I'm quietly confident. Although I watched UNC play. And I must admit, how many 6'9", 6'10" guys you have coming off the bench?
They're just a couple guys.
Every time I look at the scores table, there's 6 more of these guys coming in the game.
Isaiah Hicks comes off 6-man, a guy that is long and rangy, puts the ball in the cup. He's been doing well. He replaces Kennedy Meeks. My guy Bryce Johnson, which is a senior, he's doing pretty well. Marcus Page is still trying to find the range. The key to this game, Indiana and Carolina, is Carolina defend the on-ball screens. In the past, when they've struggled against point guards, it's because they can't get the switches. It exposes the big men's lack of lateral movement. Yogi Ferrell was outstanding against Kentucky, taking it off the dribble, getting it in the paint, and creating opportunities. We got to keep him out the paint to have any chance.
We've got shooters. If we're hitting threes and we keep you guys
well,
off
that's
the
a problem
glass,
now. That's a problem
we've got a shot. We've got a shot.
We normally concede the low percentage shot. It's just a matter if those guys are knocking those shots down. And Thomas Bryant.
Stay on the glass. Stay out of foul trouble.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Look, we do everything here.
We need to keep him in
break
foul.
down the NCAA.
Keep him
tournament.
in foul trouble.
A little bit of everything. Well, look, that's going to wrap it up for us today. It was a very chunky episode here. Lots of content. We'll be back next week with even more content. Be sure to check out all of our stuff, NFL.com/podcast, as well as YouTube.
Thanks for downloading Move the Sticks with Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks. For more, go to NFL.com/podcasts.